What if the trash in your backyard was the best material you've never used? Today on Modhouse DIY, we'll turn everyday junk into garden designs that actually matter. Not expensive. Not complicated. Just ideas you can make with what you already have. This video is packed with inspiration. Use the timestamps to skip around, and drop a comment if anything feels unclear. If this helps you, don't just watch, build your version. And if you're still here, maybe I'm just a voice on your screen. But behind it is a real story. A small family. A big dream. Every time you like, comment, or subscribe, you're keeping that dream alive. Thanks for being here. Thanks for seeing me. There is a certain peace that grows not from perfection, but from care, from hands that paint, cut, and place things not because they must, but because they love. In one such garden, tucked behind a fence, the borders bloom not only with flowers but with stories told through plastic and shard. At first glance, they were nothing, bottles tossed aside, glass tiles broken beyond repair. But someone saw color waiting to be reborn. In the morning light, the garden path gleams with cool turquoise and lime, amber glowing like honey in the sun. Bottles lie flattened and softened by time, their faces dressed in ceramic mosaics that reflect the sky. Each one sits half buried, holding the soil as faithfully as any stone, but with far more character. Behind them, marigolds and zinnias rise boldly, as if celebrating the rebirth of what was once forgotten. Farther down, a quieter rhythm takes hold. In a corner shaded by lavender and memory, bottles are repainted in soft farmhouse tones, terracotta, olive, clay. Their patterns are simple, humble, floral. Here, a chair waits under the sway of herbs, and a watering can leans beside it, as if to say, "You may sit. You've done enough for today." And then, as the path bends toward a fence, the garden's personality shows its playful grin. Bottles stand like painted soldiers, topped with smiling faces, bunny ears, and tiny crowns made from leftover tiles and pipe. The border sways like a child's drawing, a cheerful line of waves cradling succulents and basil in its arms. The art is uneven, the paint is chipped in places, and yet the joy is unmistakable. This is not just a garden edge, it is a ribbon of laughter wrapping around green life. This project doesn't require perfection. It requires presence. A bit of color, a bottle spared, and the patience to press broken things back into beauty. If you have a fence, a patch of dirt, or even just a corner that feels forgotten, perhaps it's time to let your trash speak. Paint it. Break it. Plant beside it. And watch it bloom. Not every garden needs acres of space. Sometimes, all it takes is a fence, and a little imagination sealed in plastic. In a narrow patio where brick meets timber, a vertical tapestry has begun to bloom, not with flowers, but with tiny glassless worlds. Repurposed plastic bottles, once bound for the bin, now cradle life. Mounted carefully to white PVC rails and rustic wooden frames, they hang like soft lanterns, transparent, dewy, and quietly alive. Inside each dome, moss as green as spring rain, delicate ferns curling upward like dreams waking from sleep, even a mushroom or two peeking through the soil. Some hold trailing herbs, others, living fairy gardens. Every bottle, a terrarium. Every terrarium, a story. In the early morning, sunlight dances through these suspended ecosystems, bouncing off the droplets clinging to their inner walls. A cup of tea steams quietly on a folding chair nearby. This isn't just a wall. It's a breath, a vertical breath of green in a city where space is scarce but life still wants to grow. And when twilight falls, the wall glows softly. Hidden fairy lights tucked inside the bottles begin to twinkle. Plants curl into shadow, and the patio becomes a pocket of magic. It's not grand, it's not perfect, but it's real. And it's made from what others called trash. This kind of beauty doesn't cost much. Just a few bottles. A few plants. A few minutes of stillness. And the quiet belief that even in the smallest corners, nature finds a way, if we let her. Sometimes a fence doesn't need to divide. It can hold, frame, shelter. It can sing when the wind blows and bloom when the sun rises. In this tiny backyard corner, something simple yet extraordinary rises, a handmade divider crafted not of polished wood or polished steel, but of bamboo, twine, and discarded bottles given a new voice. The bamboo poles stand upright like guardians, warm in tone, bound together with natural rope. And between their slender bodies, a rhythm of junk plastic bottles forms a visual melody. Some bottles are painted in Earth's softest palette, mossy green, sun-baked sienna, and sandy beige. Ivy threads through their edges. Nasturtiums bloom bright from their mouths, tumbling down in bursts of orange and gold. Others remain clear and blue, like water captured mid-dance. On sunny mornings, they catch the light like stained glass. And from below, small wind chimes dangle, made from broken spoons and spare washers, singing a soft metallic tune when touched by breeze. Each panel does more than provide privacy, it frames growth. Herbs like rosemary and mint spring from horizontal planters, their roots held by what was once trash. The smell is fresh, grounding. The look, timeless, but personal. There's no straight line to this design. Some bottles sit higher, others tilt with intention. The imperfection is its charm. It is not meant to impress, it is meant to welcome. To invite people to sit beside it, water the soil beneath, and marvel at how little it truly takes to build something beautiful. This isn't about saving the planet in one breath. It's about whispering to it in the language of reuse and letting that whisper grow into green walls, living herbs, and wind-sung edges. There's a kind of magic in using what once walked away, to make something that stays. Along a humble fence, old shoes have found a new purpose. They no longer walk, but they now hold wildflowers with such charm that even butterflies pause to admire them. Gardening boots, worn sneakers, and dusty clogs, all lined up heel to toe like an oddball parade of memories, now serve as a garden's playful edge. Some are painted in pastels with hearts and bees, suns and stars. Others are left as they were, scuffed, creased, beloved. Inside each one, flowers bloom without restraint. Coneflowers lean boldly, daisies giggle in the breeze, and cornflowers stand proud like little flags of summer. Bees dart between them, and butterflies land gently, as if remembering where they once rested. In another corner, along a quiet patio, the shoes change tone. Here, vintage leather Oxfords share space with glossy red rain boots. Chamomile spills from the laces, Time twines through the eyelets, and a pair of floral garden clogs cradles tiny violets. A folded chair sits nearby, a book half opened on its seat, petals scattered across the cobblestone. It feels like someone just stepped away, not to leave, but to tend to something nearby. The beauty of this border lies not just in the flowers or the shoes. It lives in the honesty of reuse, of seeing potential in the worn, the mismatched, the forgotten. It's a border built not of bricks or stones, but of personality and quiet delight. A line of laughter. A row of remembered walks now blooming at rest. So next time a shoe outlives its stride, consider letting it bloom. There's something gentle and grounding about walking barefoot through a garden where every step tells a story. Not a loud one, but a soft murmur beneath your feet, a patchwork of past lives reimagined beneath the blooms. In the first scene, morning has just begun to stir. Zinnias and marigolds stretch skyward beside a narrow mulch path, their colors rich and wild like summer laughter. Beneath them, round mosaic stones lead a winding trail, each one a handcrafted echo of domestic life, pieces of plates that once served meals, cups that once held tea, now joined in new purpose. The cool dew clings to the glazed fragments, and the soft Mediterranean blues, citrusy orange rings, and delicate green sprigs shimmer quietly in the early light. There's beauty here not because it was bought, but because it was lovingly reimagined. All it takes is a mold, some mortar, and a few hours with your hands to turn broken bits into stepping stones of wonder. The second image speaks of slow afternoons and earned stillness. A modest gravel path runs beside a wooden fence, framed by nasturtiums curling lazily at the edges. The mosaic tiles here are more muted, terracotta, ivory, sage, yet no less striking. Each square and circle feels like a relic from a rustic kitchen, arranged with care into spirals and borders. A black bench rests nearby, flanked by mint leaves and a watering can leaning in the sun. It feels like a place where one could pause with a cold drink, toes nestled in gravel, while admiring the little miracles beneath them. Even better, these stones invite you to create your own, using discarded ceramics, a square mold, and a weekend afternoon. No perfection needed, just love and patience. And then, as day begins to drift into gold, we find the third garden moment. The mosaic path here is bold and imaginative, diamond stones with sunbursts, butterflies, and abstract forms set in a staggered layout. The pieces, once fractured mugs, chipped bowls, or cracked porcelain trays, now gleam with purpose. Sunset light falls sideways through potted rosemary and lavender, casting long, lazy shadows and lending everything a warm, nostalgic glow. It feels like stepping into a memory, handmade, fragrant, and full of soul. You don't need a perfect backyard or expensive materials to create magic. Just broken things willing to become beautiful again. These mosaic stepping stones are more than decor. They are quiet witnesses to your creativity, a record of the hands that shaped them. So go ahead, collect the pieces, shape them with care, and let your path tell a story only you could write. There's a quiet joy in turning something forgotten into something magical. At the edge of a modest backyard, where grass meets gravel and silence stretches just before dusk, a simple wooden fence transforms into an illuminated path. What was once a row of bland boundary posts now flickers to life with bottle lanterns, each one handcrafted from plastic or glass, each one a story of second chances. They glow not with luxury, but with warmth, not with perfection, but with the charm of intention. Some bottles are cut and painted by hand, soft blue like distant skies, warm amber like honey left in sunlight, and rose gold that catches the last of the day's fire. Small tea lights glow inside, flickering gently against the sculpted edges. Others stand clear and uncolored, letting the candlelight cast dancing shadows through etched floral designs. They rest evenly spaced along the fence, echoing rhythm and calm. When the rain comes, it does not dim their light. A single bottle, slick with raindrops, seems to shimmer even brighter. The droplets cling to the surface like tiny lenses, scattering the light into delicate halos. Below, the darkened earth hugs rows of lettuce and herbs, modest crops grown with patience and care. Even in the wet hush of an overcast evening, the lantern glows as if to say, life is still here. Still growing. Then comes the moment just after sunset. Fireflies appear, one, then another, until they seem to dance in agreement with the lights. The fence glows as a gentle procession. Beneath it, red salvia and pale yellow primroses lean slightly in the warm breeze. A table waits quietly nearby, glasses catching glints of candlelight, a potted herb fresh from the garden sits at the center. It's a space ready for laughter, for slow sips, for barefoot nights under stars. And all of it was built from what others might have thrown away. So if you find an old bottle, pause. Look again. Maybe it's not trash. Maybe it's just waiting to become light. In the hush of the morning, long before the city begins to roar, there's a corner that glows softly, not because it's grand, but because someone dared to care for it. A narrow slice of a balcony, a modest patch beside a bamboo fence, even the edge of a hot concrete patio, each space tells a quiet story of hope, painted with petals and leaves. The first tale begins on a sunlit balcony where a tower of color rises like a blooming totem. Made from discarded green bottles, this stack of life seems to pulse with joy. Orange nasturtiums tumble from the top, mingling with purple violas and yellow calendula below. Each flower is edible, but here, beauty seems to matter just as much as function. At the base, a humble metal watering can waits beside a folding stool, as if the gardener just stepped away to refill the kettle. It's the kind of place that makes renters forget they're just borrowing space, because something so lovingly crafted always feels like home. Step into the next scene, and you're standing in a rustic backyard nook with bamboo fencing and old wooden crates. In the middle stands a vertical tower made from old paint buckets and reused plastic cups, their once bright colors now faded into an earthy patchwork of red and green. But the greens they hold? Oh, they're alive. Arugula with its wild curves, mustard leaves with their peppery pride, baby kale that leans into the light. At the summit, marigolds burst like summer laughter, a reminder that beauty blooms best when it's unexpected. This isn't gardening with money, it's gardening with memory, with care, with the things others left behind. And in one final corner, we meet a soft-painted planter made from old bottles, stacked over a white base like a gentle cake of herbs. Blue, lavender, white, each tier features tiny hand-painted flowers, and each pocket bursts with mint, thyme, basil, cilantro. Potted tomatoes flank it like loyal guards, and though the sun is fierce on the pavement, this garden feels cool and calm. It's a DIY triumph, compact, fragrant, and full of flavor. Every plant here is something you can pinch, cook, or brew into tea, a vertical pantry growing in the breeze. These towers don't just save space. They restore it. They transform forgotten corners into edible art, bottle by bottle, bucket by bucket. So if all you have is a wall and a handful of trash, you might just be holding the pieces of your next garden. There is a quiet pride in building something useful from what the world casts aside. In the soft glow of morning, where marigolds nod beside fresh earth, a handmade bench rises not from polished marble or costly lumber, but from rows of reused bottles packed firm with sand. Each bottle, clear and frosted with dew, holds not just soil, but intention. Someone once drank from them. Now, they form the bones of a place to rest. A pair of gardening gloves waits patiently on the edge of the smooth wooden plank above, hinting that work was done here, and more is to come. The light is golden. The moment is still. By afternoon, further down a different path, another bench curves along a sun-warmed patio. This one wears color, soft sage green, muted red, off-white, bottles transformed into a painter's palette of base supports. They hold up reclaimed wood, weathered just enough to whisper stories of where it's been. Nearby, terracotta pots cradle lavender and rosemary, their scent mingling with the dry gravel underfoot. A rake leans against a stone wall, not discarded but simply resting. The entire setting hums with dignity, functional, beautiful, and undeniably handmade. It is a bench that invites a pause, perhaps even a little wonder at how refined repurposing can feel. Then comes the late light of a long day, where shadows stretch lazily along a fence. Another bottle bench waits in that cool shade, tall plastic containers stacked and secured, some left transparent, others washed in the faded turquoise of summer skies. A dark wooden plank, slightly worn, balances across their tops. There's lemonade sweating in a mason jar, a straw catching the sun. A floppy hat and metal watering can rest nearby. Cosmos dance in the breeze, sunflowers watch from behind, and everything feels like it belongs, not because it was bought, but because it was made with care. These benches remind us, you don't need to buy beauty. You need patience, a few tools, and the courage to see potential where others see trash. There's something quietly magical about the corners of a garden where forgotten things bloom again. At the heart of this tale is a circle, a humble ring of shoes, no longer racing down sidewalks or splashing through puddles. These once loved sneakers, boots, and canvas high tops have been reborn as planters, each holding a pocket of living color. Worn laces trail into the grass like roots reaching back to memory. The flowers, alyssum, petunias, pansies, lobelia, spill over gently, softening every crease in the fabric and every scuff on the toe caps. Together, they hum with life, visited by bees and stirred by wind. And in the center of this circle, a tiny gazebo rises, a handmade world within a world. In one scene, it's crafted from crisp white wood and shaded by the leaves of a grapevine, casting a cool midday hush over the blooms. In another, golden hour sets the stage, warm sunlight dances across driftwood beams draped in lace, the grass glowing with evening light and fairy lights beginning to twinkle behind it. Later still, the story rewinds to early spring. A fresh gazebo stands over dewy mulch, boots freshly planted and proudly labeled, a watering can waiting like an old friend beside stepping stones that lead into the center. This isn't just a garden project. It's a way of remembering, reusing, and rejoicing in the everyday. A reminder that old shoes can still take you places, if only in circles of joy, bursting with blooms. If you ever find a single sneaker left behind, or a boot whose pair has walked away, don't throw it out. Give it soil, give it flowers. Let it tell its story again, not on the road, but in the heart of your garden. In a quiet corner of the garden, where nothing is rushed and the world breathes at a slower pace, something unexpected takes shape, a divider not built from steel or brick, but from the forgotten vessels of daily life, empty bottles, repurposed with reverence and care. The morning begins softly. Dew still clings to the gravel, and the first light glances across a winding border formed from clear plastic bottles, each carefully filled with contrasting textures, fine white sand, polished black stones, bits of charcoal. Their caps are turned uniformly, their bodies pressed gently into the earth in a gentle wave that winds through a Zen rockscape. This isn't clutter. It's clarity. Each bottle, once discarded, now becomes part of something sacred, a meditative line, drawing the eye and quieting the mind. Nearby, a mossy mound cradles a bonsai tree like a memory held tenderly in cupped hands. By afternoon, the stories shift slightly. In a shaded corner of another tiny courtyard, the bottles change again. Some wear coats of soft paint, muted earth tones like river clay, moss, and slate, while others remain bare, revealing delicate layers of gravel, seashells, and fragments of broken pottery nestled inside. The line they form is not straight, but subtly curved like a path through an old temple. Between the bottles, white pebbles catch the light, and a lantern watches quietly from under the leaves. Everything here speaks in a hushed voice, yet nothing is silent. And then there's the center, the place where spirit gathers. The gravel here is raked with precision into concentric rings, radiating out like the breath of the earth itself. At its heart stands a stone lantern, unmoving, timeless. Encircling it, bottles filled with smooth river rocks stand upright like little guardians. Some are wrapped with kanji characters, perhaps poems, blessings, or reminders. Each one different, yet united by the rhythm of their placement. Scattered cherry petals land without effort, and remain. What makes these garden dividers so powerful isn't the material, it's the intention. These are not merely recycled objects. They are lessons in stillness, reminders that beauty doesn't come from what something costs, but from the story it can tell when seen with care. To recreate this idea in your own garden, you don't need anything rare. Just time, presence, and the willingness to look again at what you already have. Start with bottles, rinse them clean, and fill them with what feels right: sand from a favorite beach, stones from your childhood path, dried petals from last year's bloom. Let them tell a story only you know. Because sometimes, the most elegant line between chaos and calm is drawn with something as humble as a bottle, placed thoughtfully in a garden that listens. In quiet corners where space runs thin, the dream of a garden doesn't fade, it simply grows upward. Along this narrow pergola passage, what once might have been forgotten plastic bottles now live again, brimming with leaves, blossoms, and edible joy. This is not just a garden, it is a gentle rebellion against waste, a vertical expression of hope stitched together by hand and string. As you step beneath the wooden beams, the sunlight spills through in golden ribbons, catching the tender leaves of basil and marigold that dance in their suspended cradles. Each bottle, once tossed aside, is now a cradle of life, its form reshaped with care. Twine holds them steady. Soil fills their bellies. And roots dig deep, as if to say, we belong here too. The fence, once a blank canvas, now blooms with purpose. Herbs dangle in tidy rows, lemon thyme spilling softly like green lace, purple basil standing tall and proud. In between, edible flowers and leafy greens peek from their upcycled homes, each adding its voice to the slow, serene rhythm of this little ecosystem. A watering can rests nearby, not as clutter, but as a quiet reminder that nurturing doesn't require wealth, just intention. One bench waits under the shade, its floral pillows faded from many seasons past. This is where you sit. Where the air smells not of trash, but of mint and morning. And as you lean back and watch a butterfly flutter across the chives, you understand, it doesn't take much to make beauty. Just vision. A few bottles. And love. Tip for you, start with what you have. Rinse out your bottles. Cut a window in the side. Add small drainage holes. Fill with compost. Hang with twine or wire, spacing to allow sun and air. Choose shallow root herbs or flowers. With a little care, your wall of trash becomes a garden that nourishes both body and spirit. There's something magical about the way broken things can come together to form something whole. Along the back fence of a modest garden, a mosaic seascape rises, not from expensive tiles or store-bought designs, but from forgotten fragments, chipped dishes, bottle shards, sea glass, and ceramic leftovers that once served another life. Now, reimagined, they ripple into waves, dolphins, and sunlit reflections that breathe life into plain wooden planks. In the first corner, where the fence bends gently and the breeze stirs the tall lavender and hydrangea, a soft ocean dance begins. Dolphins leap, playfully curved from hand-snapped ceramic, while waves swirl below in layered blues, from bottle bottoms and glassware rims once discarded. Driftwood lines the base, a natural tidewash of the garden bed, blending man-made mosaic with nature's own debris. A simple bench rests here, etched by time, and starfish stones lay scattered like beach treasures after a storm. Elsewhere, the mural stretches wide across sunlit fencing. In this daylight frame, ocean hues undulate across the wood, powder blue to navy, stitched together from discarded tiles. Among the flowing patterns, small details reveal themselves: a fish crafted from blue glass pebbles, seashells shaped from bits of old porcelain, coral drawn in bold burnt orange. The grass behind the fence sways in rhythm with the breeze, and beside it, a straw hat hangs on a nail, an invitation to slow down, sit, and soak in the sea. As the sun dips low, the last panel takes on a golden warmth. The mosaic becomes a memory of sunset, fiery reds and yellows curve into a ceramic sun, casting reflections over tiny sailboats and bottle glass waves. The foam glitters with translucent gems along the shoreline of stone and mirror pieces. Below, the path is lined with gravel and square pavers, guiding the eye, and the step, toward calm. A wooden table catches the amber light, with a glass pitcher of lemon water and the hush of evening settling in. This is not just art. It's a story of reuse, of giving new purpose to the broken. It's a reminder that beauty doesn't have to come from perfection, but can be built, lovingly, from the remnants we almost threw away. DIY tip: Start with your own ceramic scraps, broken bottles, sanded safely, and leftover tiles. Use tile adhesive and grout made for outdoor use. Let your design grow from the colors and shapes you find. Like the sea, it doesn't need to be exact, just full of feeling. A simple plywood backing mounted to a fence makes a great canvas. And let your imagination wander, because sometimes, a garden wall can carry an entire ocean on its back. In a quiet corner of a tiny backyard, where the garden meets the path and practicality meets play, something magical is unfolding, one upcycled bottle at a time. It starts in the hush of morning. The air is cool, and beads of dew still cling to the leaves. Along the edge of a raised garden bed, a row of transparent domes stretches like a gentle army of glassy guardians. But they're not glass. They're old plastic bottles, cut and repurposed into miniature terrariums, each one cradling moss, ferns, and delicate gravel in perfect balance. Moisture clings to the inside like breath on a window pane, creating a world within a world, soft, green, and glowing. Behind them, edible greens like kale and Swiss chard thrive, while calendulas peek through like tiny sunbursts. In the stillness, it's easy to believe these bottles hold more than plants, perhaps a little wonder too. By midday, the story shifts. A new edge, this time playful and earthy, lines a garden path with bottles laid sideways like secret treasure chests. Each one is a terrarium of texture and charm. Succulents nestle beside pebbles and driftwood, moss curls gently in corners, and toy mushrooms and painted stones bring a splash of childlike whimsy. The bottles, sun-warmed, slightly fogged, form a curious, creative parade of low-maintenance green art. There are no rules here. Just simple joy and soil, inviting children and grown-ups alike to kneel down and explore. A garden that tells stories without needing words. And then comes evening. As golden light leans across the gravel, the third border comes alive in a different way. Tall glass bottles now line the edge, filled with layered soil, moss, clovers, and fairy garden figures tucked like secrets within. They glow in the last light, amber, green, and gold, casting long, soft shadows across the pebbled path. A cat curls in the distance, barely moving, as if enchanted by the glowing row of living lanterns. Here, the day winds down gently. And the garden? It holds not only plants and pathways, but the quiet, patient magic of transformation. Practical DIY tips, woven into story tone. These terrarium edges aren't just beautiful, they're entirely DIY-able. Use any discarded plastic or glass bottles, cut or reshape them with care, then layer with gravel, soil, moss, or succulents. Add tiny trinkets for character, or name stones for charm. Keep your creations shaded during the heat of the day and mist them weekly. Even in the smallest garden, there's always space for beauty made from waste. Because in the end, it's not just about saving trash from the landfill. It's about creating borders that grow, not just mark space. Borders that reflect your heart. And bottles that quietly bloom, long after their first life is over. It started with a drawer full of shoes that had long since stopped walking. A single red rain boot, its pair lost to memory. A child's sneaker, outgrown but not outloved. Mismatched garden clogs that had once padded through rainy mornings. Most would have seen trash. But in one little corner of the world, a patio no bigger than a picnic blanket, they found a second life. On this tiny urban patio, each shoe tells a story, not just of where it's been, but of what it's become. Tucked into the folds of cracked leather and faded canvas, little herbs grow, bright basil, wild mint, and soft, trailing oregano. The scent of rosemary clings to the morning air, and parsley flourishes beside a vintage sneaker covered in tiny embroidered flowers. These are not polished planters or catalog-perfect corners, they are real. They are joyful. And they work. Using old shoes for herb gardens is more than just a charming trick. It's breathable. It's space-saving. The worn soles offer drainage, the canvas insulates roots gently, and the unexpected textures bring a playfulness that no plastic pot can match. Wooden crates beneath them add levels, giving each plant a stage to shine. Look closer. A teacup sits patiently next to a green boot filled with basil, as if someone was just sipping mint tea while trimming the chives. A pair of pruning scissors lies nearby, catching the soft sunlight. These details matter, not because they're planned, but because they're lived. This garden wasn't built in a day. It was stitched together with leftover things, quiet afternoons, and the kind of care that makes anything grow. So if your balcony is bare, or your yard too narrow for grand gestures, start small. Start strange. Pick a shoe that's walked through your life and fill it with something green. You'll be surprised how quickly that little patch of whimsy turns into a conversation, a ritual, and a retreat. After all, it's not the size of the space, but the soul you pour into it. And sometimes, all it takes is a bit of soil, a sprinkle of hope, and a shoe that's ready to bloom again. There is a kind of peace that lives in the early hours, when the world still holds the hush of dew and the garden has not yet begun to speak. Beneath the wooden bones of a backyard pergola, an unexpected melody begins to form. Not from songbirds or wind chimes, but from simple plastic bottles, once discarded, now reborn. In the golden calm of morning, a metal rod stretched between two beams carries the quiet weight of hope. Each bottle, cut clean and hung with strands of rough twine, now cradles the green breath of parsley, lemon balm, and featherlight dill. They dangle like little lanterns of life, backlit by the soft sun filtering through grapevine leaves overhead. A cup of coffee waits quietly on a nearby bench, still steaming, still listening. And then midday comes, with its bustle and brightness. On a narrow patio shaded by a roof of polycarbonate, the scene shifts from poetic to practical, yet no less charming. Here, bottles hang from a repurposed curtain rod, clipped with care. The herbs have names now, hand-lettered on tiny blackboards: basil, mint, cilantro. Each bottle is packed with dark compost, beads of moisture clinging to its rim, roots working in silence. The bamboo screen behind it keeps the city out, letting this small corner breathe with scent and purpose. It's DIY, yes, but elevated. It's sustainable design hidden in plain sight. As evening stretches long and gold, the pergola glows once more. The bottles, now painted in dusky shades of terracotta and sage, catch the last kiss of sun. Inside them, rosemary stands tall, Thai basil leans gently, and the purple shiso shimmers. A wooden cutting board waits below, with scissors and herb clippings ready for dinner. Overhead, the fairy lights blink on, soft and slow, promising another day of quiet harvest. It's not just a garden rail. It's a rhythm. A reminder that from trash, beauty can be born. That from scraps, you can grow something fragrant, flavorful, and free. DIY tip: cut bottles evenly and file the edges smooth for safety. Use good drainage, a hole at the bottom, quality compost, and water regularly. Want color? Spray paint the bottles with matte outdoor-friendly paint and rotate them with the seasons for charm that never fades.